Deku and Ochako are about to confess to each other. You better put on your hazmat suits, everyone. Next week is going to be quite the dumpster fire in the My Hero Academia community. With only 2 chapters left, the series set to end on August 5th of 2024, and it's very clear with what Horikoshi is setting up with this chapter, chapter 428. Next chapter is going to probably be a whole chapter dedicated to confessions, for instance, mainly between Deku and Ochako, how they have feelings for each other, and what is next for their future. And then the final chapter is probably going to be some form of time skip showcasing all the characters and who is with who, etc. This is the part of a series, a part of any manga, where it leads into a lot of toxicity. The same has happened for pretty much almost any shonen in the past. I mean, just let's look at the Bleach community to the Naruto community. You know, we have Boruto that exists, and people still argue about the fact that Naruto should have ended up with Sakura, etc. You still have arguments like that. You have stuff where people think that, you know, the ending of Bleach, so-and-so character should have ended up with so-and-so. It's just like, every time there's an ending of a shonen, there's always this debate, this toxicity around pairings, romantic ships, and let's be fair here. My Hero Academia has had a lot of toxicity around pairings and ships. That is just saying it lightly. I mean, you have people shipping Deku with All Might, people shipping Deku with Bakugo, Bakugo with Ochako, Tsuyu and Ochako together. You get the point. You have pairings pretty much for everything, and there is a nice big chunk, a subset of the My Hero Academia community that mainly only cares about the pairings and the romance, etc., and they completely disregard everything else. It's just their headcanon, what they want some character to be with another character. And the fact that Horikoshi ended chapter 428 on this right here, where you have Deku coming in to check on Ochako that's on a hilltop by herself, like I'll even show it. She's literally standing by herself, just looking at the cityscape, and how the repairs are being made by the heroes. You know, life is progressing, things seem to be slowly going back to normal, but Ochako obviously is still very upset thanks to the after effects of the fight and what happened to Toga. This whole page right here, you know, reinforces that aspect that Toga has a everlasting impact on Ochako's well-being, how she doesn't want to shut everything away, she wants to just straight up be true to herself, but it's very hard and she feels like she's by herself. And so when you see, you know, Deku appear here at the end of the chapter, it's pretty much like, just as how Ochako tried to save Deku when she made the speech in front of everyone at UA, you know, a few arcs back, you know, we now have Deku coming in to be able to save her when she's feeling down, when she's feeling sad and upset. And obviously this is leading into confessions, because the very theme of the chapter, you getting into the whole point of it, like it literally opens up with basically a bunch of, you know, people throughout the, you know, the first years fangirling and fanboying over the second year's AKR main cast of characters, and you can just see that there's a lot of girls, like, you know, wanting to be with Bakugo, etc. It's very clear the vibes that Horikoshi Sensei was setting up with this chapter. So when you take a hard look at, like, you know, the conclusion of this, yeah, we're about to have a very radioactive, you know, conversation next week. It is going to be absolutely toxic, because like I said, I would not say this if there hasn't been definitive proof that it's going to lead to this. I mean, we have seen it countless times with other shonen in the past, like Bleach and Naruto is good prime examples, but obviously My Hero Academia has been saturated with these conversations since pretty much the beginning of the story. So when you factor that in, oh man, this is going to be insane next week. Because regardless of whatever happens, let's just say hypothetically, regardless if, like, Ochako and Deku get together, there's going to be people upset. If there's Ochako and Deku don't get together and somehow something else happens, people are going to be upset. There is not going to be any winning. There's not going to be any side door. One side is going to be completely fine, or both sides are going to be completely fine, so to speak. You know, there's going to be people that are just going to be genuinely upset. And this conclusion here is probably what is really going to make and break the ending for a lot of people. It's not going to be the whole themes of heroism and villains and stuff, and the, you know, defeating Shigaraki and dealing with all that, or Bakugo, you know, coming back, etc. No, that is not going to be what breaks the camel's back. What's going to break the camel's back for a lot of people is the conclusion of these romance pairs. And oh man, we all knew this day was coming. It was one day going to happen, because obviously, just we've seen the community. You literally had I think less than a year ago, maybe it was a few years ago actually, but there was literally a woman that did a video, a very, very cringy, awful, awful video. I think that was even on YouTube for a point in time that was removed, where like someone gave birth or something to like Bakugo's figure or something like that. It just, yeah. I don't even want to dive into that. I know JJK had something very similar happen as well. But, yikes. Just straight up freaking yikes. So, when you think about this, just, oh man, dude. It's gonna be a fun time. Gonna be easy content creation for me. Gonna be blunt. But, it's gonna be sad because obviously the conversation's gonna shift from the messages of the story to just mainly just about romance and stuff, when that's never truly been the main focus of the story to begin with. But obviously it's important though too, to be fair, when Horikoshi has obviously set this up for a very long time. And Ochako and Deku has been set up to kind of be together for a long time. I know people like to deny that, but it has. I mean, like, we've known that Ochako is crushing on Deku and is in love with him to some degree. It's a no-brainer thing that's just been there for a very long time. The only other person I could legitimately see Ochako get with, which I still don't think would be okay, would be Bakugo. But that's it. That's literally it. So, factoring all that in, yeah, man, it's going to be some wild stuff in these upcoming weeks and all that. The last two chapters are probably going to be the most radioactive time period of My Hero Academia, which is sad, because as I've been talking about when it comes to these final chapters of My Hero, legitimately, this is some of the strongest chapters that Horikoshi has cooked up in a very long time. Once again, feel free to disagree with me. You can completely disagree with me. It's completely fair. If you're not satisfied by these chapters, you wish it would have been different, etc., etc. I fully understand that. You know, not everybody's going to like these final chapters that we've been getting, but I really do think that in terms of just, like, concluding some stories, setting up, you know, like, or not setting up, like, finishing off storylines and character arcs, etc., it has been done in the best way possible. I mean, maybe there could be a few changes here and there, but overall, with what Horikoshi has to work with a few chapters remaining, he's done a good job with his paneling, getting the message across that some characters, you know, are permanently damaged by what has happened, and not everything will go completely back to normal, but they're doing their best. You have it to where the villains had some conclusion thanks to Spinner's ordeal, to what happened with, you know, Dobby and Endeavor. You know, there's been some really solid chapters that's come out, and just these chapters have really made me satisfied as a long-time fan of My Hero Academia that's been reading this manga since the first 3 chapters ever released. You know, I am getting pretty satisfied with this conclusion. Now, once again, at this current time, and there's always a possibility that this could be sequel bait as well, like we could be setting up for a sequel, because obviously My Hero Academia is popular. Love it or hate it and all that, it does sell well to a degree, and the thing is because of that, you know, there is always a potential possibility for a sequel follow-up. But for now, let's just talk about the epilogue and what we have right now. I think that seeing this conclusion with Ochako is very beautiful as well, because obviously, you know, the whole Toga situation had a deep impact on her as a person, and how Toga, you know, sacrificed herself as well for, you know, Ochako to be able to live. It's a very emotional moment, and especially since, you know, Toga's death, technically, Ochako feels very responsible for it, because she felt like if she would have been there to be able to accept Toga at that moment and knew what to say at the proper moment, even if there was circumstances that, you know, it's really outside of Ochako's control, maybe things could have been differently, and she's going to carry that guilt and that sadness for the rest of her life about Toga's passing. And so when you factor that in, you know, I can't wait to see what, you know, Deku has to say about the whole ordeal and how he's going to talk about Toga's passing and stuff. But, yeah, man, we're about to be in one of the craziest time periods now of My Hero. Are you going to put on your hazmat suits for next week? Because I know for a fact I am, because it's going to be very bad. But, I guess I'll wrap it up there. Besides that, though, speaking of conclusions, I know this isn't relevant to the video, Nagatoro ended today as well. That's pretty sad. I know it's a completely different series from My Hero Academia, but that manga also concluded today, and it's pretty sad because it's a really good romance series. I know it gets a lot of flack from its earlier themes, but, it's, a lot of stuff is wrapping up, to JJK, obviously, getting close to its conclusion now, to, you know, One Piece in its final saga, to, you know, obviously My Hero wrapping up here and all that. It's just, like, back-to-back series are pretty much coming to an end that I have been reading for a good while now, and it's sad. It's always a sad day, but, if the endings are good, I think that's really all that matters. But, okay, anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot, and with that, Chibi out.